Welcome to the 2004 Royal Rumble review, a forgotten event for obvious reasons due to the fact that it was circled around Chris Benoit. Benoit, I remember coming into this show, he had a storyline with the general manager Paul Heyman of SmackDown at the time that the only way he'd get a title shot is if he won the Rumble. So him coming out at number one, we already knew. And it's funny, I remember being a 18-year-old kid and thinking about who would be the second entrant to this match. I remember thinking about that. Who are they going to have come at number two? And for whatever reason, I just pictured Randy Orton coming out. And I swear to God, that's what I pictured. And when it happened, I was stunned because I had already pictured the Evolution theme starting and him and Benoit being the first two in the ring. And they'd last to the halfway mark. Kind of like Shawn Michaels and the Bulldog, although they went the whole way in '95. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's look at today at the 2004 Royal Rumble event from Philadelphia, and let's see how it holds up today because I rewatched it, but like I always do, I always go back to my old review. 17th Rumble event. Benoit, it should be noted at first that the Benoit broke Bob Backlund's Rumble record from 1993, lasting 1 hour, 1 minute, and 30 seconds. But before that, he that was the record. Obviously, Rey Mysterio broke the record in '06, and I believe that's still the longest. I'll have to wait to see until future Rumble reviews. But Benoit had the record at this time, at this event. Test was set to enter at 21, but was found beaten up, so Stone Cold offered his spot to Mick Foley. Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff had a brawl before the Rumble match, which Austin interrupted and gave both men stunners. During the Royal Rumble, the famous gong went for The Undertaker as his dark side review, as his dark side character was going to come back at WrestleMania 20, and that was just another teaser. The gong, as we know, Kane buried him alive at Survivor Series '03 back in Dallas. Sunday Night Heat, Victoria defeated Molly Holly at 4:56. Steven Richards was in the corner of Victoria, of course. Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross do commentary again, but they just for the Raw action. Michael Cole and Taz for the SmackDown action. And I believe Taz and Jim Ross did it for the Rumble. They interlocked both SmackDown and Raw's commentary sets. So the Dudley Boys, for the third time out of the last four Rumbles, start the pay-per-view. Or didn't start the pay-per-view, but are in a tag team title match at the pay-per-view. They started this one, though. They defended against Ric Flair and Batista at Evolution, and Batista came out on the microphone talking about how they whooped their asses at Armageddon, and they would against this time as well. And so nonetheless, we had the match. They showed Jonathan Coachman being 3D'd from a previous Raw before the bell rung, but when the bell rung, both teams went at it. Fast action, but didn't really get the crowd going as much as you wanted to. I remember Dudley Boys fought Edge and Christian at the 2001 Rumble, and that was a match where the crowd was invested in it. Two over teams, but then again, 2001 was late Attitude Era. It's not fair to compare the crowd to early 2004 because Austin and The Rock left. They're just a different breed of fan. I'm not saying that the Ruthless Aggression era sucked or anything, or had bad crowds, because compared to today, those crowds were legendary. But nonetheless, this match just didn't do what an opener should have done. I only rated it a star and a quarter, so that's why I'm being harsh on it, if I had to be. Again, they only give him 4 minutes. In the end, Batista used a spinebuster to put Devon through a table. And it was a tables match, so that's how they won. Off to the second match. This would be a bit better, but again, timing was an issue. They didn't give them any time. They only gave them 3 minutes, 12 seconds. Of course, I'm talking about Rey Mysterio defending the title against Jamie Noble, who had Nydia, who was blind at the time, kayfabe. And they did a lot of countering and a lot of work with the 3 minutes they were given, but 3 minutes is 3 minutes. Nydia accidentally tripped Noble, and then Ray hit the 619 on him for the win at 3:12. Good for what it was, but way too short. It was actually a really impressive 3 minute match, though, but I just can't give it any more than 2 stars because It's a 3-minute match. All right, now we got Uncle versus Nephew. A rematch from, I believe, Bash at the Beach 98. And a rematch from many WCW matches. Chavo versus Eddie. Chavo had Chavo Sr. with him, which I believe is Eddie's brother. Because Chavo is obviously the nephew of Eddie, even though they're separated by only a couple years. Watching this live, it felt a little dull, I remember, but I don't know what I was smoking as a joke, because this is actually very good, although not amazing, but very good when I rewatched it. Uh, there was a lot of psychology used by both men. There was a good story they told. There was a lot of outside interaction with Chavo Sr. I gave this 2 stars and 3/4, but now on the rewatch, I remember liking this a lot more than I did when I reviewed it. I give this match a 3 stars and 1/4. That's what's gonna stick. So I gave it 2 stars 3/4 in the last written review, but now I'm gonna give it 3 stars and 1/4, and I take that into consideration when I rate the Rumble at the end. All right, we got Brock Lesnar defending against Hardcore Holly. Now, this is because of the legit shoot injury when Holly almost had his neck, or almost broke Brock Lesnar's neck. Well, he did break it in a sense, and or no, this was Lesnar that broke Holly's neck. I believe that's what I said. But Holly got revenge at Survivor Series '03. He tried to anyway, but this was their big singles match that that was hyped for that reason, because Hardcore Holly was not over enough to have a WWE title match on the second biggest pay-per-view event of the year. It made a lot of us go, what? But, he's a veteran. They had a story. They gave him a chance. Lesnar obviously won the match. He won him with a F5 at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. It was decent. I give it 2 stars and 1/4. One of Hardcore Holly's biggest matches, maybe one of his best matches. I think Hardcore Holly is best known for his run as Hardcore Holly in the Hardcore division, which is hence why I think he kept the Hardcore name. That's where he's better off. Was better off. Triple H and Shawn Michaels then had a last man standing match. This is kind of a forgotten gem. It was a bloody brawl with table spots. These guys are veterans. They went all out. And this is why I guess a lot of the matches were short, because this one got 22 minutes and 46 seconds. They both collapsed in the end, and the match ended up being a draw. The fans did not like the fact that this was a draw. They really were hoping to get to see a winner here. Triple H's run with the title was ad nauseum at the time, and Shawn Michaels not winning the big one since Survivor Series '02, which only lasted 3 weeks, by the way. They wanted Shawn to win, but nope. We prolong this. The fans chanted bullshit, bullshit. But yeah, this match gets 3 stars and 1/4. I think that's fair. It was a brutal match, though, in a good way. But some parts did linger on, as some brawls do. The main event was the 2004 Royal Rumble match. And just before I get to that, I'll say about Shawn Michaels and Triple H. That story would end up culminating with Benoit's win at WrestleMania 20. So it's kind of good that we didn't get a solution, because it made something great for the future. But back in January of '04, we're all saying, what the hell? We paid this money. We want to see Shawn Michaels the champion, or at least Triple H win in a decisive fashion, but we got to draw? That's not what we paid for pay-per-view for. Well, that's the opinion of the wrestling fan back in January of '04. I remember reading that online that night. And, yeah. If it didn't lead to that great WrestleMania moment, it would have taken a lot away from that match. But like I say, I got it at 3 stars and 1/4. All right, now we're time for the main event. And like I said, Stone Cold had his thing with Bischoff and Heyman before the Royal Rumble match. Benoit came out first, then Orton, then Mark Henry, then Tajiri, then Bradshaw, then Rhino, then Matt Hardy, then Steiner, then Matt Morgan, who they pushed a lot for this match, and then the Hurricane. Those are the first 10 members in the ring. Decent action throughout. Nothing really noteworthy happened though in the first 10 entrants, but it was other than Matt Morgan dominating bodies when he came in. But not a lot of eliminations happened either. The second 10 were Booker T, Kane, Spike Dudley, Rikishi, Rene Dupree, A Train, Shelton Benjamin, Ernest Miller, Kurt Angle, and Rico. Pretty decent roster there. The last 10 were Mick Foley, which is test spot, Christian, Nunzio, Big Show, Chris Jericho, Charlie Haas, Billy Gunn, John Cena, Rob Van Dam, and Goldberg. So that's pretty star-studded, to be honest. I really thought that 2003 was more star-studded than this one, but that looks pretty close. So Taz picks on commentary the Big Show to win the Rumble because he's following the Andre the Giant philosophy, where it's the biggest man in the ring can win the battle royal, and that's what logics would tell you. But and that's what makes it great when you predict a big monster to win, and then they finish at the end, sort of like Kane with Austin in '01. Now in this '04 Rumble, Big Show and Benoit, we've got to see. It's the symbolism. It shows that there's a man beating a giant to get to the final prize, like the final boss in a video game. That's that's what it looks like when the hero has to go through the final boss and he's just a giant beast. So that's one of the things this Rumble had going for it was Benoit's desire to be in the main event, to actually get a title shot. When you look at the year before, he went the distance with Kurt Angle in the one of the best matches of all time. And Michael Cole said at that event, Chris Benoit could be champion. And a year later, he goes from number one all the way to the end and then gets through the monster in a unique fashion, choking him by the rope and then having Big Show flip over. And now Benoit's not only going to main event WrestleMania, but he's going to main event WrestleMania 20 event they are hyping like no tomorrow. So huge moment for Benoit. Obviously, the biggest moment in his career to this point. There were so many things that happened during this Rumble, like Lesnar getting involved, F5 and Goldberg. We had the Ernest the Cat Miller singing around. We had Jericho, Kurt Angle, all them huddling up and trying to get the Big Show, but Big Show knocked everybody away. The Mick Foley and Randy Orton instance where Mick Foley came in the ring and he got caught beating up Orton, and they both went out together. So the gong from the Undertaker that signaled his return. There was a lot of great moments during this Rumble, so I think it's one of the better Rumbles myself. We'll never hear about it today, unfortunately. I gave this Rumble 4 stars and a quarter. So that's going to influence the final rating, which is a 6.5 out of 10. It'll forever be known as the Benoit Rumble, where he drew number one. But a decent last man standing match. Chavo and Eddie was pretty good, but the Rumble is what stood out, and it was a great Rumble. So the pay-per-view, 6.5 out of 10. Tell me what you guys think in the comments section. Subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Brett Mixer, I'm out.